What if leadership challenges are not just about people or performance, but about patterns? Today on Transformation Station, we're exploring Septemics, the hidden cycles and systems that shape team behavior, and how understanding them can transform the way you and I as leaders lead. Come on, let's go ahead and get into this conversation. Welcome back to Transformation Station, the podcast where we uncover the deeper frameworks that help leaders move from reaction to intention. I'm your host, Adrienne Benton, and today's conversation invites us to step back and see leadership from a systems perspective. Our guest, Jim Marshall, he's going to bring clarity to the concept of Septemics. Now, before we dive into this episode, I want to share something with you. Are you ready? I know you are. Listen. Because you have been such an amazing community, we moved past 3,200 podcast downloads. Oh man, that's right. I want to say thank you to every listener, everyone who tunes in with us on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you so much. Now, we're at 3,200. However, we've only just begun. So I want to invite you. We're in season 3. If you by some chance missed even one episode in season 1 and season 2, I want to invite you to go back. Go back and listen. Don't just listen for yourself, but be sure to share another episode with another leader in your network. Now, let's go ahead and get this conversation moving started. I want to introduce our guest to you. Mr. Marshall is a polymathic intellectual who has devoted over 50,000 hours to the study and the practice of multiple dimensions of human potential and development. He has successfully treated and or trained hundreds of clients over a 40-year career, and he is the inventor of Septemics. His area of expertise includes psychology and philosophy and theology and parapsychology and science and engineering and mathematics, law, literature, history, music, organization, metaphysics, military science, political science, physical culture, and education. He is a wealth and a resource of expertise and knowledge. And it is my honor right now to welcome to Transformation Station, Jim. Welcome to our podcast today.
Thanks, Adrienne. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. We're really glad to have you. Now, Jim, as I was preparing for this podcast, what resonates with me about your work is how it helps leaders to stop treating symptoms and to start understanding systems. Now, for those of us who are new to Septemics, how would you explain it in simple terms, and why is it especially relevant for leaders today?
Okay. The first thing I should say to give context to the discussion is that I am the discoverer of hitherto unknown natural phenomena, which greatly aid in the understanding of people, from which I created a revolutionary practical philosophic system called Septemics and published it in the book Septemics, Hierarchies of Human Phenomena. Septemics is a philosophical science based on the fact that many phenomena related to humans occur in a sequence of 7 levels. The word Septemics literally means of or pertaining to 7. Septemics comprises a collection of scales or sequences, each of which breaks down various human phenomena into a hierarchy of 7 steps. There are 35 such scales, each of which is unique. And together they span the spectrum of human experience, by which I mean any problem, dilemma, difficulty, situation that any person has regarding people can successfully be analyzed by one or more of these scales, usually more than one.
Okay.
Once you can analyze it, you can then predict what's going to happen. And once you can predict, it's easy to manage.
Okay. I'm looking forward to diving into this. So tell us then, how does understanding the multiple dimensions of people potentially change the way that leaders see performance, motivation, and growth within our teams?
Okay, there are three basic ways that this subject is beneficial without getting into specific instances. Firstly, each of the 35 scales provides the user with an infallible way of determining the salutariness or the beneficialness of any group, individual, or activity.
Okay.
If the group, individual, or activity moves persons up the scale, it's beneficial or positive. If it moves them down, it's detrimental or negative. More importantly, just finding out what level you or another person is at on any scale is by itself inherently beneficial, because when you correctly spot a level, you necessarily have an insight, or you might call it a realization. So, for example, let's say you're having trouble with some guy who works for you, and you say, well, I'm going to see where this guy is on the scale of choice, which is a very important subject. And when you spot where he is, you say, oh, now I see what's going on with Fred. He's at level 5 on the scale of choice. That's not so good. See, that's near the bottom. That's why he has trouble with X, Y, and Z. See, now you understand what's going on with this guy. And then thirdly, once you know the correct level, whether it's of yourself or another, you can then improve the person by moving them up one level at a time. This is monumentally important because I have solved the gradient problem that has bedeviled mankind for 6,000 years. Let me tell you what I mean by that. We all have problems, dilemmas, situations, difficulties that we can't resolve. More than 99% of the time is because we don't know the gradient. Every good teacher, coach, facilitator, therapist, etc., in the world knows that human development must be done on a gradient. You cannot make a couch potato into an Olympic athlete. There are too many intervening levels. So these 35 scales are the gradients. I'm giving you the gradients. So in any one of these 35 subjects of human phenomena, you find out where you are. The level up is where you will go if you improve. Because one of the axioms of the subject is that you can never skip a level. It's absolutely impossible. Think of it this way. If you're on the first floor and you want to go to the 5th floor, one way or another, you're going to have to go through the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 4th. When you take the stairs, the escalator, the elevator, you're going to have to go. And that's what this is like. So there is no theory of septemics. This is all based on natural law. I come from a hard science background. I'm a dyed-in-the-wool engineer. And I worked for 40 years as a human development engineer with individual clients, bringing the clients to higher levels of enlightenment, equanimity, responsibility, ethics, et cetera, whatever the person wanted, using engineering principles, engineering tactics, engineering devices, engineering theories, engineering approaches, and it worked spectacularly well. And when I say spectacularly well, I was getting results comparable to successful psychotherapy, orders of magnitude faster, because of my use of biofeedback. My understanding of the human mind in an electronic form enabled me to use the biofeedback to get right into the guy's subconscious, find out what the problem is, approach the subject, and get him to figure it out.
I love this. This is revolutionary. So tell us, how did you discover Septemics?
Okay. Well, the story really begins when I was accepted into engineering school at the age of 16. Now, of course, at the time, I thought I was going to be engineering physical things such as airfoils and motors and electrons and such, as did all the other students. But by the time I had my bachelor's degree, it was obvious to me that I wanted to engineer the human psyche because it is the area of greatest unknown, of greatest mystery, and more importantly, it is the area in which we as a race are failing miserably. 95% of the problems in industrialized society are because people don't understand people, don't understand the wife, don't understand the son, don't understand the boss, don't understand the employee. That is the main problem that we have. That is why in the United States, more than 50% of the people who get married get divorced. Clearly, they did not understand the person. If they did, they either wouldn't have gotten married or they would have lived happily ever after. And similarly, that is why all over the world, everywhere you look, populations routinely elect morons and criminals to run their governments.
Mercy.
Because they don't understand. When you get this data, it eliminates that. You can analyze the person across 35 axes. You know exactly what the person is about. This is based entirely on natural law. There's no theory of Septemics. So here's how I got this. I was working with clients successfully. All the clients improved. And incidentally, I started to notice that I could predict the outcome of the session. I never told that to anyone, but it told me there has to be something predictable in here in order for me to do this. So I simply made notes. And as the decades rolled by, it became obvious to me that the client would be at a specific level on a specific scale that I had previously observed and recorded. And as a result of our interaction, he would go up to the next level on that scale. Now, this happened many thousands of times. I don't really know because I wasn't keeping a record of that, but maybe 8,000, 9,000 times. Every time it occurred, it verified my hypothesis. Because the clients knew nothing about how I was doing what I was doing. They didn't know anything about my engineering theories or what tactics or approaches or the biofeedback. They didn't see any of that. All they knew was they came to me with an unwanted condition or a problem or a dilemma. And they said, "Can you help me with this?" And I said, "Yes," and I did. And so the realizations that they would have were specific to the genre. And so a guy comes in and says, "You know, I can't get along with women. Can you help me with this?" I say, "Sure." So we do the session. He says, "Oh, now I see. Now I understand what's going on." See, he wasn't figuring out Septemics. He wasn't figuring out the biofeedback. This was about his mind.
Right.
So because of that, this was very reliable scientific data because I never told my clients anything other than the time and the date of the session and my address. You know, that's about it. So even if they asked me directly, it didn't happen often, but even if they did, I would not answer the question. Now, do you think I should stay with this woman? Well, what do you think?
Right.
Well, so what I'm saying is there was no placebo effect and there was no power of suggestion because I never suggested anything. So I essentially was using Socratic dialogue aided by biofeedback. So if you study the Socratic dialogues from 2,500 years ago and see what Socrates was doing, and then realize that I added modern biofeedback to that, I was able to do essentially the same thing that he was doing, but orders of magnitude faster. So a guy goes into a therapist, right? He says, "You know, I can't keep a job. I need help with this." So he sees this very nice psychologist for an hour a week for a year. And at the end of the week, he's doing better. I could fix that in 20 minutes using my biofeedback. Because not only did I get indications of what the real issue was, which the person really rarely knew. But then I would get indications from the subconscious what the actual matter of it was. In other words, like, guy comes in, I say, okay, how do you get along with your mother? And the meter goes, boom. I make a note of that. The session, I say, how do you get along with your mother? Boom. Same reaction. Now he starts to tell me, and I'm getting feedback. And different feedback tells me different things. So I can see from the feedback that this guy had a secret from his mother. So I would ask him, did you have a secret from your mother? How did you know? Yes. Well, tell me about it. See? And we would go right into the subconscious, and we would get back to things that he forgot about completely. He had a secret when he was 5 years old, blah, 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 and the whole thing goes woof, and his relationship with his mother just got better. Now, instead of that taking a year, it took 20 minutes. Well, what this did is, this was a sort of time-lapse photography. I was able to see the client flourish minutes instead of years.
For years.
Well, the therapist was not able to see what the dynamics were because it took so long to do it. So I was able, it's like, you ever watch a time lapse of like a flower, you see a rosebud and it grows and it flourishes, and then you see it in 20 seconds. You really understand it better than if you just look at a rose, you only see it in that snapshot. And because of that, I was able to see these phenomena, and I just recorded them. I never told them to anybody. Now, by 1995, I had actually observed and recorded 32 scales that just appeared in front of me. And you have to realize I would see it in session, and then when I would go out of the session, like to Walmart, for example, I'd see two people, and they did the exact same thing. People didn't even know. I wasn't even talking to them. And they would manifest the exact same phenomenon that I had just seen in the session. That just verified. And again, they didn't even know me. It was very reliable information. And so I would note that, see? Now, by 95, I had about 32 scales. And one day I was pondering a difficult case. I had a 6th level scale that by then I knew was correct because I had been using it for decades. And I was trying to assess this client onto this scale. In other words, what level is she at? And I couldn't get a response. I couldn't figure it out until I realized, wait a minute, there's a 7th level. This level I had never previously observed. And there's very specific technical reasons for that I could explain to you. But the point is, as soon as I saw what the level was, I understood the client perfectly. I knew exactly what had been going on with her. And I could also see where it fit into the 6th level scale. And I inserted it. And when I inserted it, that scale at that moment went from being a line, which is what a scale is, to a plane, meaning a whole body of data. Because all of these interacting, intersecting, interlocking mathematical data jumped out at me about the scale. It wasn't a scale anymore. It was a plane. And I looked at this, having taken 26 semesters of math, which I loved. And I said, whoa, this has got math embedded in it. And anything that has math embedded in it is natural law. So it has to be natural law. And then I asked myself, wait a minute. I wonder how many of these other scales that I have might also be 7-level scales that hadn't been developed all the way, because I wasn't developing anything. I was just hoping my clients were making notes.
Helping them to be able to do it.
So now, knowing what I was looking for, I inspected all these other scales carefully. And in a short period of time, each of them went to 7 levels and when it manifested mathematically. So now I had 32 7-level scales, all in various areas of human phenomena that were just based on direct observation. Having gone to school for 28 years, I said, I never saw anything like this. This looks like a new subject to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that really could help people. And then I thought, wait a minute. I could go from helping people by the hundreds, which is what I had been doing as human development engineer, to helping millions if I put this in a book and get it out. So I'm going to have to write a book.
Mm-hmm.
So the first draft was finished in December of 95. And I immediately sent it to colleagues of mine, all of whom had graduate degrees in a variety of subjects. And they all responded very positively. They loved it. They had differing responses, but very positive responses. And they told me that this was exactly what I suspected it was, which is a new subject that people really get. I then spent the next 25 years of my life writing the book. Because I had a transcript form. And when I saw how big this was, I thought, I could really make an impact with this. So what I did is I rewrote it. I released it to clients and students and colleagues. I got feedback. I rewrote it again. And there were about half a dozen rewrites in this book. And every time I released it, it became clearer and clearer and clearer. So you realize, first I had to discover the phenomena, and I already pretty much told you how I did that in the series. Although I did find 3 more scales as I was writing the book. Then I had to take that data and had to use it to craft a workable philosophical system. You have to understand, as an engineer, I'm only interested in results and facts. For engineers, opinions and beliefs are utterly irrelevant. They're okay in other areas of life. You know, if I'm talking to my son or my mother, oh, tell me how you feel about it. You know, that has nothing to do with engineering. Engineering, you can't say, whoops. It has to work all the time for every person. You can't just have the plane fall out of the sky and you say, whoops, I didn't get that one right. That doesn't go in engineering, okay? Which is why if you study it, there are all of these rigorous areas of factors of error, margins for error, redundancies, to make sure that everything is going to work the way it is supposed to work. So it took 20 years to develop this into a workable philosophical system. Then you have to realize I had to make this accessible to the average reader of English. And that was the most time-consuming aspect of this, finding the right word. And I spent probably thousands of hours looking at synonyms. Is this the exact right word? And am I expressing this in a way that people are going to get? And as I said, I know I succeeded because people keep getting it. They keep telling me. They've been telling me for 30 years. Oh, I get this. This makes sense.
I love it.
No, you don't have to have a college degree to understand this. You need to read English really well. When I say really well enough to read a book.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of people who can sign a check or look at a newspaper, but they don't read books. Okay.
Right. So let me ask you this. Because we're talking to leaders, right? So how can leaders practically apply what you're talking about when they're looking at their teams, when they're looking at like developing the individuals that they work with in their organization? How can we practically apply Septemics?
Okay. Anytime you're talking about leaders, they're leaders of people. Right? This is the data on people. This is natural law. Every person is at some level on every scale. So let's say you have a business partner and you're having trouble with him. Analyze the guy across 34 scales. Where's this guy on this scale, on this scale? And every time you get a correct answer, you'll have a realization. Oh, that's what's going on with this guy. He's at level 4 on the scale of basic purposes. And that is X, Y, and Z. See, now you understand this guy better. And then you say, well, where is he on the scale of personal influence? Where is he on the scale of choice? Where is he on the scale of thought? Where is he on the scale of permeation? These are important things to know. When you study the material, you'll see. Like, for example, if a person is not at level 3 on the scale of thought, he cannot be a scientist, an engineer, or a mathematician, period. You can't do it. You have to have analytical thought. And there's millions of people who don't have that.
Correct.
I mean, most of them are perfectly nice people. You know, they're insurance agents and taxi drivers and plumbers, and you know, but they can't think analytically like Mr. Spock. So that tells you something. You see, that tells you, is this the right guy for this position? Is this guy ever going to fit in this position? And you find the scale that seems to make sense. You analyze the guy against that scale. In other words, if you're talking about somebody who's, you want him to be an editor, an editor needs to be literate. There's a scale of literacy. If this guy is not at least at level 4 on the scale of literacy, don't hire him. He can't do the job. Okay? If he's at 5, 6, or 7, he's not going to be able to be an editor. He can do something else. Now, I can tell you right now, most humans are not at or above level 4 on the scale of literacy. They're not. It's a minority of people. So this is really useful. You're dealing with people, you need to understand those people. What's going on with this guy? How do I fix this? You know, because you'll find when you're dealing with people, they have personal lives. They have things going on. Is this guy doing drugs? Is this guy an alcoholic? You know, this guy sex crazy? You know, these are all things that are going to be disruptive in his life, you know? So you need to find out what is going on with it. And then once you know that, then you know what to do with the person.
Absolutely. So that leads me to this question that I wanted to ask you. So when you see people starting to use Septemics, when you see people starting to use the concept, right? Or people, we're talking to leaders. So when you see leaders using it, what shift do you notice begins to happen when the leaders stop focusing solely on output, but they start leading with understanding the team, the people that they're working with across emotional, intellectual dimensions?
Okay, as I said, every time you correctly spot a level, you have a realization. Okay? You say, this guy seems to have trouble with choice. Let's see, where is he on the scale of choice? Oh, this guy's at level 6 on the scale of choice. He's going to have a lot of trouble with that. So now you know what you're dealing with. You see? Where is the guy on the scale of sexuality? See? This could be a problem for this guy. He's not telling you about it, but you can spot it if you know the person. And I'll give you a perfect example. Everybody who's been paying attention for the past 40 years knows that Bill Clinton is a very smart man. Even his enemies and his opponents admit that. He was a skilled politician. He knew what he was doing. And he was, in most ways, very successful. But everybody also knows, if they've been paying attention, that he's a serial abuser of women. This is not news to anybody. This has been all over the media for 35 years. So on the scale of human ability, he's at a very high level. On the scale of sexuality, not so much. Or he wouldn't have made such a big mess in his life. So that's a perfect example of a brilliant guy who has this other thing going on that sabotaged him. You know, I mean, if he were higher on the scale of sexuality, he would not have made the mistakes he made with those women. He would have treated them differently. They wouldn't have been suing him and calling him a rapist and everything. So that would have made a big difference in his presidency, wouldn't it? So This is when you can spot these things, it gives you have an insight. Then, after you have enough of these insights, you realize, wow, this systemic stuff works. I'm going to analyze my wife according to these 35 scales. Oh, she's at that level on that scale. That's why she does X, Y, and Z. She's at this level on that scale. Oh, that's not so good. That's why she does A, B, and C. And every time you do this, your understanding improves and your leadership improves because you know what you're dealing with.
Yeah, I like it because you know what you're dealing with as it pertains to others. I think you also learn more about yourself and learn how to self-regulate,
Yes.
right? So that we're operating with authenticity and not emotional, being emotional and just kind of just taking things as it comes. But you can actually, it sounds like as you have been using Septemics with individuals, there's this insight that comes and people are able to start seeing the world around them more clearly. And that's really
Yes.
important for the workspace, right? Especially when we talk about leading teams where people are coming to us and everybody's different. But if we understand how people function just in general on the different levels, then as we come into these insights, you're right, we can lead better.
Right.
So if you could take
Very
us,
specific.
yeah, very specific. So, we talked about it from a leadership perspective. Can you just give us an example or talk to us about it from the perspective of dealing with just our local community? And I'm asking you this question because right now, people are really struggling when it comes to just understanding the world around us. But how can these levels and having a clearer understanding help us to just navigate life around us in general?
Well, let me give you an example. When Barack Obama ran for president, I had no idea who he was. He had only been in the Senate for 2 years. Most people in America had no idea who this guy was. Now, the people in Illinois knew because they sent him to the Senate. But the
Right.
people from the other 49 states, who's this guy with this funny name running for president? Never heard of this guy. So I conducted a septemic analysis of him. And I was able to determine where he was on the scale of basic purposes. Now, think about this. The person's basic purpose is what he's trying to do all the time. What could be more important than that? So when I spotted that, that informed me. I knew what his basic purpose was. Do I want to vote for him or not? See? And that clarified this for me. Took some time to listen to him, listen to his speeches, observe him, get enough data that I could spot it. Some people are easier to spot than others. For example, George Washington was not easy for me to spot on the scale of basic purposes. It took me a long time. And I studied him, but I figured it out eventually. On the other hand, Alexander Hamilton, whoa, that was like minutes. It was so clear. And if you read the people who've discussed him, the biographers, that is what they say. It was clear who this guy was since he was a kid. He was running a business when he was 13. Okay? A brilliant guy. Washington kept him at his elbow for the whole war because he was so smart. So it was very easy for me to spot him. So it varies. Sometimes you get it right away, and sometimes you need more information. The point is that once you get it, you have a realization. That's what's going on with this guy. Like across 35 axes, you see? So some of the axes may be more relevant than others. For instance, I have a guy who works on my car. There's only one human being who touches my car for years and years and years. This guy works on racing cars, $1 million cars, okay? He's like a genius on cars. So I already know, doesn't matter what's wrong with my car, take it right to him, he fixes it, and he gives me a fair price. I know he's not going to cheat me, okay? That's it. That's the end of the discussion. There is no competition. I know this guy is high on the scale of human ability as a mechanic. He's at a very high level. Okay? So he has my complete trust and he has all of my business. So I don't need to know where that guy is on the scale of spiritual identity, or where he is on the scale of equanimity, or where he is on the scale of sexuality. I don't need to know that.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not relevant to this context. So this is how I use it in selecting people. Okay? For example, if I'm going to date a woman, that's one set of variables that I'm going to look at that's completely different from if I have a student. See?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's, as I said, it's very specific. And
Mm-hmm.
I give you examples of, of how to use it if you wish.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So this has been like a masterclass, honestly. And I know that we have leaders that definitely are going to want to reach out to you. So as we turn the corner, I just want to ask you this final question, right? For the leaders that are listening, that are watching, who they're like, hey, Jim, okay, I get it. And I want to start leading more holistically using multi dimensions of human potential. Tell us, what's a practical best practice that we as leaders can implement tonight, tomorrow, this week to better support, develop our teams through the system of Septemics?
The first thing you should do is go to my website, where you can see what many readers have said about it, what many journalists have written about it, what the reviews are. You can read sections of the book itself, and there's even an audio introduction to Septemics that you can listen to that explains it to you in 15 minutes. If you do all that, you're probably going to want to buy the book. And if you buy the book, you're going to get it. Because if you got the website, you're going to get the book, because I went through a lot of trouble to make this comprehensible to the average reader of English. And then once you get into the book, it's just going to be a cascade of realizations.
Yes.
Oh, that's why my wife doesn't like it when I do this. Oh, that's why my mother acts like that. Oh, that's why Fred in accounting gives me a hard time all the time. Whatever it is. And you just keep using it and using it and using it. And your life just unravels. And let me tell you, when I was a young man, this data didn't exist. I hadn't discovered it yet. So I made the same stupid mistakes that everybody else makes. Right? But now, knowing this data, cannot happen, does not happen, will not happen. And I can give specifics if you want about that, but my life is very smooth. I have control of myself and my life. I know where I am on all the scales, on all the people around me. I know where they are on all the relevant scales. Okay? If somebody is at or near the bottom of certain scales or many scales, they're out. Period. Out. And so they're not going to sabotage me the way Hitler sabotaged Germany.
This is fantastic. That's a clarity that many people long for. And so you saw Jim, or he shared with us rather, his website. We want to invite all of the leaders that are listening and watching right now. It's on the screen. It's also in the description box. Go to the website so that you can see Jim's book, buy the book, read it, dive into it, and contact him. Let him know that you saw this episode. Let him know what resonated with you. You are going to have questions. You're going to want to dive deeper. Remember, community, the community that learns together grows together. So we want to invite you, reach out to Jim, and let's keep on growing as a community. Jim, this has been amazing. I want to thank you for the time that you have sown into us as leaders. And I'm quite sure you'll be hearing from some of our community. Thank you so much for sharing this time with us today.
You're very welcome. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. All right. Well, community, listen. Today's conversation truly was a masterclass, and we're grateful for the time that Jim spent with us today. If this episode sparked a new perspective, then I want to invite you to take one of the patterns, one of the systems, one of the principles that Jim spoke to us about, and start to apply it. Remember, awareness is the first step to change. And also be sure to subscribe to Transformation Station. Share this particular episode with a leader who's ready to move beyond surface level solutions, and they're ready to continue investing in leadership that's thoughtful, strategic, and transformative. Until next time, remember, when leaders understand the patterns, we can change the outcomes.